Top story. Top thing for us to talk about right here. Jaylen Waddle is a very rich wide receiver. According to many sources, Schefter tweeting this one out this morning. The Miami Dolphins have agreed to a contract extension with Jaylen Waddle. Ian Rappaport, my colleague from the NFL Media Group, also tweeting out this morning. It's a new 3-year deal. $84.75 million contract, includes $76 million guaranteed. Waddle is now one of the league's top 5 highest paid wide receivers. As a matter of fact, let's get these numbers appropriately nailed down for you. The $28.25 million average annual value of the extension, 4th highest in the NFL among wide receivers. Guaranteed money is 3rd behind A.J. Brown's $84 million and Amon-Ra St. Brown's $77 million. And those were the contracts awarded to Amon-Ra St. Brown and A.J. Brown were awarded to those gentlemen on the day before and the day of the NFL draft this year. So things are popping. So 3 things leap to mind. Let's take the first one first. Let's talk about Miami Dolphins and what they're building and what they are building and how what they are building requires them to play in their building when it's January. Because what they are building is a very fast team. This just in. We saw it last year. Obviously, Devin Achane and Raheem Mostert and Tyreek Hill. You know, for you next-gen stat freaks out there, nonstop next-gen stats thrown in our direction about how the top speeds reached on a field were all Miami Dolphins. And once upon a couple months, DK Metcalf would pop in there, right? It was either Mostert, Hill, Achane, fastest guys on a field. And they'd be ticketed in a 25-mile-an-hour zone.
Fast.
And then in this year's draft as well, they went out and they drafted a kid out of Tennessee, Jalen Wright. God bless him. Good luck to him getting his way into the starting lineup in some way, shape, or form. He ran the second fastest 40-yard dash of a running back at the Combine this year, kid out of Tennessee. They drafted him. They drafted Malik Washington. Remember I told you about that kid at the draft in our draft shows in Detroit? Top 5 underrated players in the draft. He had one of the best years in the history of Virginia football. Fast, difficult to cover. You look at their depth chart. Their starters, Mostert, Hill, Waddle, Odell Beckham Jr. Jonnu Smith is the tight end there that's in their starting lineup right now. And if you remember Jonnu Smith prior to the Patriots essentially placing him on the side of a milk carton, he was a fast tight end for the Tennessee Titans. It would be tough to put him on the ground if he was in front of you. Achane is a backup running back with Jalen Wright, who I just mentioned. He's 3rd on the depth chart. Braxton Berrios is 2nd on the depth chart, along with Malik Washington. They are deep and they are fast, and Tua is going to get paid. It's going to happen. Folks will wonder if they're crazy to overpay him, but he is the guy who is the trigger man, and we have seen if he can stay upright and stay healthy, he can be an outstanding quarterback, putting the ball where it needs to go for this team to get enough wins under its belt to not only make the playoffs, but threaten to win their division, and that's the key. They lost too many defenders due to non-contact injuries last year. You could lose track. You lost track on it. I mean, Jalen Phillips is one of them. You talk about Bradley Chubb. He's another one. You talk about this defense and what they are building. Shaq Barrett is now on this team. This guy, once upon a time, a Pro Bowl pass rusher. They also changed out defensive coordinators because apparently there was oil and there was water, and Vic Fangio was one and the team was the other. We'll see how that can work. They just have to make sure they are not playing in negative 20-degree wind chill weather against the defending Super Bowl champs. They could have played at home against the Buffalo Bills. They lost their last game at home to the Buffalo Bills, and they wound up in the middle of the Arctic North. in Kansas City. That's it.
That's it.
And again, we're talking to Sean McDermott later on. A lot of folks think the Bills are ready to get got finally at the top of that division because they did have to change out a lot on the back end of their defense due to cap concerns. They did send Stephon Diggs to Houston. They did send Gabe Davis his walking papers or his exit visas. He's now in Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. Those are the two guys that Josh Allen was targeting in all of these terrific years when they were threatening to make the Super Bowl. It is now a totally different room in the wide receiver room. We'll talk about the Bills' perspective later on, but for the moment of the Dolphins' perspective, this is the time to go and get this division and make sure they do not play a game on the road in the playoffs unless it's, if they have to, the AFC Championship game, or it's the Super Bowl in New Orleans. And that is exactly the type of game the Miami Dolphins want to do. Play indoors, play on the turf, or play on their own turf in Miami, and you come in there, and they will run a track meet on you, and good luck as Mike McDaniel spends his entire week trying to map up the way that you cannot match up with them, and he puts his team in those positions. That's the way the Miami Dolphins can win the Super Bowl this year. They just got to stay healthy, and they got to win enough games to not go on the road. Can they win on the road? I'm sure. I mean, they did threaten the Bills in a snowstorm on a Saturday a couple of years ago on NFL Network on a Saturday night. I don't remember that, but got to play at home. That's number one that I thought of. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.